25-10 legislation, 25% minorities, 10% women, and then it seems like you don't have enough confidence in the unions that they will embrace minorities to come in and be a part of these projects. I mean, how much strength do the unions have in preventing these contractors from hiring minorities?
Well, first of all, it's the contractors who actually hire the workers. If you notice, the contractors associations, there's several of them, they've been relatively silent on this issue. And they have allowed the struggle to be between the unions and those who are trying to penetrate the unions. But it's actually the contractors that call the union hall and say, send me some carpenters, send me some bricklayers, what have you. And I think, unfortunately, the unions have been put in the unenviable position of taking the heat for team owners, for elected officials, for the contractors, and they are ill prepared to deal with the struggle that they have been given. The unions are smart enough to know that they need to change, and so they have gone about the business of trying to do that. We need to give them credit for that. It's going to take them a long time because it's like turning around a battleship at sea. But they've hired a firm, at least a public relations firm, to go out and actually try to find out about their image and things that they can do. But they have been left in a public setting where it appears that they are fighting against the African American Workers Union. Now, I don't know what happens if the African American Workers Union applies for membership in the Allegheny County Labor Council, but I can't speak for Calvin, but that's probably going to happen.
Do you feel that the unions are impeding the progress of the African American Workers Union?
I think that there has been some, we know for a fact there has been some attempts to undermine some of the things we've tried to do by some union leaders. And we believe that there are some, there definitely are some good union people out there that are willing to work on equitable terms with all communities.
Well, I just wanted to state that we did invite the Union Trade Council to appear on the show, and they declined to come on the show, so we'll move on. Representative Robinson, you stated that there would not be any peace, particularly earlier on the show, people protesting and so forth, if the adequate hiring did not come to fruition.
Well, Sheldon, there's not going to be peace in this community unless the African American community and women are substantially involved in what has been called Plan B. And I'm saying that as one who supported this plan, someone who raised a lot of questions, someone who takes some responsibility for the involvement of minorities and women to date. The 25 and 10 is a measurement. And there's a couple ways to measure it. One, let's measure it against the law. Is it legal? Can it be implemented? Is it constitutional? But I'm going to institute a scorecard, and every 30 days, beginning on the 1st of March, we're going to grade the participation of minorities and women. We're going to find out who's in the deal and who's not in the deal. A lot of contracts have been signed. There's been a lot of good faith conversation. Let's find out what good faith is. And every 30 days, there's going to be a scorecard. That's going to be my contribution to trying to hold people accountable who tell me and have told others in writing that they want to make sure that minorities and women are involved. It's time to put up or shut up. No participation, no peace.
Right. No, I mean, a good faith agreement is not a binding agreement.
No, not at all.
And so there leaves a gap there.
A big gap. It's like a chasm. You know, remember when Evel Knievel tried to jump over the Snake River Canyon with his rocket car? He didn't make it. And I think good faith is that chasm. Those who are trying to jump over to the other side, I think they're going to have a hard time doing that.
Do you see the African American Workers Union, Calvin, being brought into the fold somewhere along the line?
Well, we are going to be a part of the fold.
When?
Well, right now we're working on development of our programs for apprenticeship, and we're working with people not only in Pittsburgh, but outside of Pittsburgh to make sure that it comes to full fruition. But we also know that people are only going to work if we let them work, really. I mean, we're prepared to shut down sites.
Now, the groundbreaking for the ballpark, the baseball stadium, is April 1st, and then June 1st for the football stadium.
Yes, exactly.
Do you expect to hear something before the first groundbreaking or by the second groundbreaking? I mean, what kind of deadline are we working with
just
here?
Yesterday, I was in a discussion with some AFL-CIO people, and it's the beginning of a dialogue, and we hope to come to some common ground. We hope that they understand that it's not enough that people follow, because some of the biggest people, the biggest numbers of people that they want to bring into unionism are from the African American and minority communities, women, and it's not enough that we're followers, but we can be founders, and that's what we have done with the African American Workers Union. And it's not enough that we come to the after dinner conversation. We got to be at the dinner, or else a lot of the conversation after dinner will be basically null and void.
What kind of recourse do you have if this doesn't turn out to your expectations?
Well, I think one recourse is something that was suggested by a representative of the Wall Street Project, a representative of Jesse Jackson's effort to get African Americans more involved with corporate America and rebuilding cities, and that is a lawsuit. And that's something every lawyer understands, and I think that's a reality. If African Americans and women are shut out of Plan B, a lawsuit is a reality. And that's why I say the lawyers who've helped put this project together, this Plan B, this grandiose scheme, they need to sit down with some elected officials, and they need to come to an understanding that they need to put a legal framework around the participation of minorities and women, and let's get on with rebuilding this region.
Okay, we want to take a break and have some final thoughts when we come back. Stay with us. I want to know your impression on certain political figures in regards to the hiring of minorities. And Representative Robinson, I want to ask you your impression of Governor Ridge. What is your feeling on his effort to make this happen?
Well, I think the governor would like to make it happen. Unfortunately, his meeting with union leaders did not include African Americans, union leaders from the Pittsburgh area. The unions put a lot of pressure on him. My private conversations with the governor lead me to believe that he will be actively involved in trying to resolve this issue. I'm in communication with the governor's office, and I will continue to pressure them and Secretary Butler to do the right thing, and also to do the thing that's going to be in the best interest of African Americans in this Commonwealth.
Now, when they announced a few weeks back their efforts to get Plan B funding, they had not yet approved the stadium funding. They had a huge representation of the labor force across the state, and I saw a lot of African Americans
from
in
Philadelphia.
That group. These guys are from Philadelphia.
From Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, I think the administration, the governor, and civic leaders have been much more successful. Remember, they're at sort of like the beginning of their process. Unfortunately, here, the process has moved along pretty quickly, and this issue of the involvement of African American labor leaders has not been resolved. Calvin Clinton represents the union, yet union people are having difficulty working with him. They're not used to a Calvin Clinton.
Calvin, what's your impression of Mayor Tom Murphy's effort to include African Americans?
Well, at this juncture, we can't say that it's been the greatest. They did not support the efforts of our union to be involved in making sure or trying to assure that there would be some equity in terms of union skilled labor for the construction sites. If he'd have used some of the same determination to get the monies for these stadiums with inclusion of all the population, including African Americans, I think we'd be a lot further along.
What's your impression of City Councilman Salah Uddin? He's the one he's the architect of the 2510 legislation.
Well, I think that we support the legislation. There are some areas regarding pre-apprenticeship that we have some concerns with, but we support the legislation, and we would hope that that with our now being with the Minority Oversight Review Committee and working with them, that we'll be able to move further, a lot further in terms of employment.
Representative Robinson, the county commissioners, have they been a stumbling block in your opinion, or have they been working to make African Americans more inclusive in this labor hiring?
Well, I think initially both Commissioner Cranmer and Commissioner DeWitta spent an inordinate amount of time being concerned about the team owners, keeping the teams in town, and I think this is an issue that they did not access. Calvin has said that he feels, at least I've read that Calvin says, that he feels that the relationship with Commissioner DeWitta has been fruitful. I think that Commissioner DeWitta and Commissioner Cranmer could be a lot more helpful in this regard. I think whatever political influence they have with the labor unions, they need to use that to try to bring some people together. It's going to take real political courage to change this county and to take it into the 21st century with everybody being involved. Rhetoric and a lot of nice pamphlets are not going to get it, and so our commissioners still have a few more miles to go before the commissioner form of government is ended at the end of this year.
Well, I'd like to interject that by their support of us, like I said, the Allegheny County Labor Council, one of the reasons that they did not endorse Mike DeWitta was because of some of his support for our union. We believe, and we have reason to believe that. We know that there are other things that can be done, but there's a lot of other players in this that are behind the scenes, that the Steve Leapers, that could, the Master Builders Association, others that are involved in terms of this construction, that should make their presence felt in terms of making sure it's going to be an equitable process for all people.
And I'll add that we did invite Steve Leaper to come on the show, but he was unavailable, and he's a stand-up guy, and he's more than willing to talk about these things. Perhaps we'll have him on a little bit later at another time. But gentlemen, I want to thank you both for joining us, and we'll have you on again to talk about this issue as new developments unfold.
Thank you.
I'm Sheldon Ingram. I want to thank you for joining us for Inside Pittsburgh, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.